Keanu Reeves walked through the dimly lit metro station, his footsteps echoing softly in the quiet space. He was about to climb the stairs when his gaze fell on a man sitting in the corner, slumped against the cold wall. The man held a battered cardboard sign that read, "Just one chance." His clothes were torn, his face pale, and his eyes hollow from exhaustion. For a moment, Keanu paused, holding his coffee cup tightly. The faint sound of a departing train filled the station as Keanu made his decision. He approached the man, his heart heavy with empathy. The man didn't look up, lost in his own despair, until Keanu knelt slightly to meet his gaze. This moment was more than just a chance encounter. It was the start of a story that would change both their lives forever. Keanu sat down on the cold bench beside the man, his usual calm demeanor radiating warmth. "What's your name?" he asked gently. The man hesitated, unsure if he could trust this stranger. Finally, he replied, "David." His voice was soft, almost a whisper, as if he hadn't spoken in days. Slowly, David began to share his story. Once he had a family, a home, and a steady job. But a devastating car accident had taken everything from him: his wife, his child, and the life he once knew. "I tried to get back on my feet," David said, his eyes welling up, "but no one wanted to help someone like me." Keanu listened silently, his expression full of empathy. In that quiet metro station, for the first time in years, David felt like his voice mattered. Keanu didn't interrupt, didn't judge. He simply let the man's pain fill the space between them. It was a moment of connection that neither would forget. The hotel lobby felt like another world to David. The soft hum of music, the warm lighting, and the comfortable chairs were far removed from the cold metro station he had called home. He sat awkwardly in a plush armchair, his hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. For the first time in years, he felt warm, safe. Keanu stood nearby, speaking softly to the receptionist. "Let's make sure he has everything he needs," Keanu said, handing over his credit card. David looked around the room, overwhelmed by the kindness of a stranger. He glanced at Keanu and whispered, "Why are you doing this?" Keanu smiled gently. "Because sometimes all someone needs is a chance." David's eyes filled with tears, but this time, they weren't from pain. They were from hope. That night, for the first time in years, David would sleep in a warm bed, dreaming of the possibilities ahead. The clothing store was bustling with activity, but for David, it felt like a quiet sanctuary. He stood in front of a full-length mirror, staring at his reflection. For the first time in years, he saw a version of himself he could recognize, a man with dignity and purpose. He was wearing a light gray sweater and navy trousers, clothes that fit him well and gave him a renewed sense of confidence. Keanu stood nearby, holding another shirt, a supportive smile on his face. "What do you think?" Keanu asked. David hesitated, his voice shaky. "I don't remember the last time I felt normal." Keanu nodded, understanding the weight of those words. This wasn't just about clothes. It was about reclaiming a part of himself that he thought was lost forever. In that store, surrounded by ordinary people, David felt extraordinary. It was the first step toward a new life, and he was ready to take it. David stood in front of the hotel room's mirror, his hands trembling slightly as he buttoned the jacket of his navy blue suit. The suit fit perfectly, a stark contrast to the worn-out clothes he had arrived in just days ago. His short brown hair was neatly combed, and his face, now clean-shaven, reflected a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Behind him, Keanu sat on a chair, watching with quiet pride. "You're ready," Keanu said, his voice calm and reassuring. David took a deep breath, meeting his own gaze in the mirror. For the first time in years, he felt like he belonged. This wasn't just about looking the part. It was about believing in himself. With Keanu's unwavering support, David felt ready to step out into the world and reclaim his place in it. It was a moment of transformation, not just in appearance, but in spirit. The sunlight bathed the quiet street as David stood outside the bank, his back to the world behind him. In his hand, he held an envelope tightly, the words, "Pay to the order of," just barely visible through the paper. To most, it was just a paycheck, but to David, it was a symbol of redemption. His light blue shirt and dark trousers reflected his fresh start, but it was his posture, upright, confident, that told the true story. David stared at the bank entrance, the weight of gratitude and pride filling his chest. He whispered under his breath, "Thank you, Keanu," his words carried away by the soft breeze. This wasn't the end of his journey, but a milestone that marked how far he had come. David knew he wasn't just holding a piece of paper. He was holding a second chance, a new life waiting to unfold. Flames roared into the night as chaos erupted around the office building. David, now dressed in a reflective safety vest, moved with calm determination. "This way," he shouted, guiding panicked employees out of the building. Smoke filled the air, but David pushed forward, helping an elderly woman navigate the stairs and carrying a young man to safety. His face, illuminated by the fire's glow, was a portrait of courage. When the last person was out, David collapsed onto the pavement, exhausted, but relieved. A crowd gathered around him, clapping and cheering. For the first time, David wasn't just a survivor. He was a hero. His actions would soon be on every news channel, but in that moment, all he felt was the quiet satisfaction of knowing he'd made a difference. He had become the man he always wanted to be. Keanu sat in his quiet living room, his back to the viewer, a coffee cup resting in his hand. The glow from the TV lit the room as a news anchor spoke. Former homeless man becomes a hero, saving lives during an office fire. On the screen, David stood in the distance, barely recognizable, his reflective safety vest catching the light. The headline scrolled across the bottom, but Keanu didn't need to read it. He already knew. A small smile crossed his face as he took a sip of coffee, the weight of satisfaction and pride settling over him. Keanu whispered to himself, "This is why we help." The scene was quiet, intimate, and powerful, a testament to the ripple effects of kindness. Outside the window, the night sky was peaceful, mirroring the calm in Keanu's heart. Thank you for joining us on this inspiring journey. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stories That Inspire. Together, we can spread hope, one story at a time. See you in our next tale of inspiration.